Picture this. It is 1973, and the golden age of American muscle is officially dead. You are sitting at a red light in a big block Chevelle, and this heavy, plastic-bumpered Pontiac rolls up next to you with a screaming bird on the hood. Most guys laughed at these smog-choked, tape-striped jobs because the EPA had just mandated strict emissions, dropping average horsepower across the industry by a massive 30%. You rev your engine, expecting an easy kill against a slow 70s cruiser. But when the light turns green, that bloated Pontiac absolutely obliterates you. How is that possible? That car was the 1973 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am Super Duty 455, and it was an absolute ghost. You see, while Ford was busy turning the legendary Mustang into a sad 98 horsepower economy Pinto clone, a few rogue engineers at Pontiac were secretly building a race engine for the street. Today, I am going to show you exactly how this seemingly slow, bloated car humiliated the greatest muscle cars ever built. We are going to break down the 4 specific undercover engineering loopholes Pontiac used to sneak a purebred race motor past the feds. Ready for the first secret? Section 1. The smog-era loophole nobody saw coming? Imagine sneaking a bomb into a library. That is exactly what Pontiac did in a corporate environment that was banning high performance. In 1973, General Motors executives issued a strict mandate to kill all high-compression engines because insurance premiums for muscle cars had skyrocketed by nearly 40%. Pontiac engineers knew they could not build a traditional muscle car anymore. So, they decided to completely redesign their standard 455 cubic inch block, secretly reinforcing it with forged internals and adding provisions for a dry-sump oiling system. A street car with a dry sump? That is pure NASCAR. But what did the EPA say? Getting this race engine certified by the federal government was an absolute nightmare. The EPA demanded that all 1973 cars pass a rigorous 50,000-mile emissions durability test without failing. Pontiac actually installed a hidden time delay solenoid in the Super Duty to bypass the restrictive exhaust gas recirculation valve for exactly 50 seconds upon startup. It gave the car better cold performance to survive the strict tests. When the EPA eventually found out, they were furious and forced Pontiac to remove it entirely. But surprisingly, the engine still passed their strict standards anyway. How did a low-compression engine make so much power? The secret was completely hidden in the airflow. You cannot compress the air much anymore, so you just cram more of it in through sheer volume. Pontiac secretly bolted on specialized high-flow cylinder heads, practically ripped straight from their canceled Ram Air IV race program. We are talking massive 2.11-inch intake valves and 1.77-inch exhaust valves that were unheard of in 1973. This massive plumbing allowed the Super Duty to flow a staggering 250 cubic feet of air per minute. The result was a factory-rated 310 net horsepower. But numbers on paper are one thing. What happened on the street? Section 2. Why did every street racer think it was a joke? If you rolled up to a drag strip in 1973, visual appearance was everything, and the 1973 Trans Am looked like it had eaten a few too many cheeseburgers. Thanks to new federal crash mandates, cars had to survive a 5-mile-per-hour impact without any body damage. This added massive, heavy rubber urethane bumpers to the front and rear of the car. The Trans Am suddenly swelled up, weighing in at a massive 850 pounds. Car guys took one look at that weight and laughed it off as a sluggish luxury cruiser. Well, the joke was totally on them. Despite hauling around the equivalent of a grand piano in extra federal safety weight, the Super Duty had a mechanical advantage hiding underneath the hood. Pontiac equipped it with a specialized Rochester Quadrajet carburetor, flowing a massive 800 cubic feet per minute. When those giant secondary barrels opened up, it sounded like the car was violently inhaling the atmosphere. A guy with a modified 1970 Chevelle would hear that intake roar and suddenly realize he made a huge mistake. Out of the box, on terrible 1970s bias-ply tires, this heavy beast ran quarter-mile times in 13.7 seconds. But how did it corner? Drag racing is cool, but American muscle usually fell apart the second you hit the twisties. Not the Super Duty. Pontiac gave it a heavy-duty suspension, thick 1.25-inch front sway bars, and a tuned steering box that made it handle like a European sports car. Motor Trend actually tested it on a skid pad and pulled an incredible 0.81 gigaseconds of lateral grip, a number that completely embarrassed the modern muscle of that era. You had a nearly 4,000-pound car dancing around tight corners faster than a lightweight sports car. It defied all physics. But why were these cars so rare? Section 3. The secret corporate assassination of the Super Duty? You would think a car this dominant would be parked in every car enthusiast's driveway across the country. But finding a Super Duty back then was literally like finding a unicorn. General Motors executives absolutely hated this car and wanted it dead. They were terrified of government pushback and skyrocketing fuel prices from the massive 1973 oil embargo. Gas prices practically doubled overnight, jumping from around 38 cents to 55 cents a gallon. So GM actively tried to kill the Super Duty program from the inside, intentionally delaying production. They made it incredibly hard to buy. But gearheads found a way. To actually get one, you had to navigate a complicated maze of dealership paperwork. You could not just point at a colorful brochure on the wall. You had to specifically write down the LS2 engine code on the hidden order form. Because of the corporate sabotage and relentless EPA delays, Pontiac only managed to build exactly 252 Firebird Trans Ams, with the Super Duty 455 in 1973. It was an absolute phantom on the streets. Those lucky few who got their hands on one realized quickly that the horsepower rating was a total lie. Want to know the real numbers? Engine builders later put these stock, completely untouched Super Duty motors on dynamometers, and the results were mind-blowing. They were actually churning out closer to 370 horsepower and over 400 pound-feet of torque at the crank. Pontiac basically sold you a highly illegal, detuned race engine with a factory warranty. They used forged TRW aluminum pistons and heavy-duty connecting rods that could handle serious track abuse. You could take this smog-era grocery getter, change the distributor curve, bolt on some headers, and instantly run 12-second quarter miles. It was a giant middle finger to the authorities. But who was its biggest victim? Section 4. How did it embarrass the world's fastest exotics? Imagine spending massive money on an imported European exotic sports car, only to get instantly gapped by a Pontiac with a giant bird decal. In the early 70s, the De Tomaso Pantera was the ultimate rich guy status symbol, packing a mid-engine Ford V8 and a sleek Italian body. It was supposed to be completely untouchable on the street. Car and Driver magazine got their hands on a Super Duty and lined it up against the world's best. The heavy, supposedly slow Trans Am sprinted from 0 to 60 in just 5.4 seconds. It literally out-accelerated the Pantera. But there is more. It also absolutely crushed the almighty 1973 Corvette. Chevrolet's flagship sports car was suffering from the exact same emissions choking, with its big 454 engine dropping to a pathetic 275 horsepower. The Corvette was supposed to be the undisputed performance king of General Motors, but the rogue engineers at Pontiac had secretly built a faster car for thousands of dollars less. When Chevy engineers saw the taillights of the Trans Am pulling away, they were absolutely furious. The Super Duty was officially the fastest accelerating production car in America that year. But what happened to these legendary cars? Because they were built during the absolute darkest days of the global gas crisis, many of these engines were ripped out or completely destroyed by guys who didn't understand what they had. They saw a heavy 70s car and carelessly junked them for parts. Today, finding a pristine, numbers-matching 1973 Super Duty 455 is a holy grail for automotive collectors. In fact, one perfectly restored example recently crossed the block and sold at a Mecum auction for over $170,000. It proves that the true value of a classic car is hidden under the hood. Are you ignoring a hidden gem today? You have to look much closer at the cars everyone else blindly dismisses. The Super Duty teaches us that even when the government, the economy, and the corporate bosses tell you high performance is dead, true car enthusiasts will always find a brilliant loophole. They will hide forged race blocks in plain sight. They will disguise massive carburetors under restrictive black air cleaners to fool the inspectors. They will build absolute legends, while everyone else is building boring appliances. So next time you see a heavy 70s cruiser, think twice before you race it. You might just lose everything.